All right, we are going to talk about measures of central tendency, mean, median, and mode. We're also going to talk about how these look when plotted. So I'll do a very simple chart behind me here at the end. This is going to be very important foundational material for when we start talking about z-scores next week. I might actually even do a quick introduction to those today because logically it flows very smooth talking about these together. So first of all, mean, median, and mode. The mean is basically the average. This is probably a concept you are very familiar with. A mean score is an average score. If I have 10 students and I give all 10 of them the same exam, I find the mean score by adding all 10 of those scores, taking that sum, and then dividing it by 10, right? You add all the scores up, you divide by the number of participants or the number of scores you have total. That's your mean. That is your average. It's a concept everyone's familiar with. Now, the median and mode may be new terms for you. The median is the middle point in all the scores. If you would line them up from low to high, it's the one in the middle. We don't use it a lot in statistical analysis, but it is helpful because it can get rid of some extreme scores on the end. So, for example, giving a test to 10 students, right? If 6 out of those 10 students all scored within the 70 to 80% range, there were 2 students who failed, right? Hadn't slept the night before, hadn't studied, got a 10, 15% on the test. And then there were 2 students who, fantastic job, this comes naturally to them, they got 95, 100% on the test. What looking at the median does is it lets me take those extreme 2 on each side and it doesn't cancel them out, but it accounts for the fact that there was extremes on both ends and focuses on, so what is my middle point? Because if you've ever worked with averages in doing math, and we'll get to this when we talk about z-scores, you know that if you're working with averages, having a super low score, having a 0, or if it's a scale of 1 to 100, having a 1 or a 2, that can really bring down the average, the mean. And so having that median can be helpful in order to kind of be able to set aside those extreme points in a way and focus on what is your middle point. The last measure of central tendency is called the mode. And what the mode tells you is what is the most frequently repeated number. If I have a class of 100 students and I give a 100-point test, it would be helpful for me to know if 30 students got a 72, right? It's the most commonly repeated number. It's a number that shows up more than once or twice. The mode can be very helpful if you're working with nominal statistics. Remember we talked about nominal or not statistics, but variables. We talked about nominal, also called categorical variables. If there is, your textbook gives the example of religion, right? If you're looking at the nominal variables in a group, and there's one religious identity, if that's something you asked about on your survey, if there's a religious identity that shows up multiple times over and over and over, that would be important to know that the mode is this one. This one showed up the most. So that is the difference between mean, median, and mode. The calculations you're going to be doing for this class this semester are all going to be focused on the mean, but it's important to know the terminology of the other 2. I will stop here for part 1, and we'll pick up with part 2 with variability, standard deviations, and skewed distributions.